this report that we've been reading of how in swing states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, gun sales up 80%, ammunition sales across the U.S. up 139%. It almost seems when you see this from the outside that America is preparing for some kind of a civil war rather than a normal democratic transition. What's going on?
Well, I don't read too much into that for this reason. Every time in the last several election cycles when America's held elections, particularly when it looked like a Democrat had a chance to win, Republicans and the National Rifle Association kind of spike and say we have to buy guns because it looks like the Republicans are going to lose and Biden's going to take our guns. We've never banned a hunting gun in American history ever. It's all just kind of smoke and mirrors. But I think it's less, Rahul, about some sort of pending civil war, although I fully expect that there will be violence at some levels in the United States. Certainly if President Trump loses, he's encouraged it. He's suggested people would go to the streets and be violent, almost suggesting that he would be okay with that. But with regard to the sales themselves, it's not unusual ahead of an election, particularly, again, if Trump were way ahead in the polls, my guess is you wouldn't see the run on gun stores. Trump's behind in the polls. The gun people and the National Rifle Association do a great job of telling people you better buy your guns now because if a Democrat gets in, they're going to ban them. I think that's more what's going on here than any kind of underground civil unrest that's going to explode on election day, or tomorrow probably, if not tonight. But as I said, I do think there's going to be violence at some level. I would be shocked if there's not. I just don't think it's probably at the level because I think the sales are based on other factors.
Carolyn Presutti, you're tracking voter turnout at polling booths in D.C. and elsewhere. How strong is the enthusiasm given the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic and also given the fact that 90 million Americans have already voted in this election?
All good points. Just take a look behind me at this long line. We're currently in Wilmington, Delaware, the home of Democrat Joe Biden. And just look at how many people are voting in this presidential election. This line not only extends into the building, but it also wraps around the block. I talked to someone at the front of the line, and she said she's waited upwards of 2 hours in order to be able to cast her ballot. But as you mentioned, a lot of people voting ahead of time. In fact, 2/3 of the amount of voters that voted in the 2016 election have already cast their ballots. And that's one reason why we think we might not have a winner tonight. We might not have a winner tomorrow. We might not have a winner in a week, because it's going to take the individual states to count those ballots as per their laws. Some states rather, have already counted those early ballots, and all they have to do is press a button and then it tabulates. Other states didn't start counting until this morning. Some states have been given the okay that if those ballots are postmarked by today, they can count them as late as 3 days, one state even as late as 9 days. Now, those states also are swing states. So that means it could go either way. It could go for the challenger Joe Biden, or it could go for President Donald Trump. We don't know. And as you mentioned in the polls, they are close. These men are neck and neck. We've seen a range of 4 to 10%, depending on which poll you are quoting. But these men are very close. Both of them, again, out on the campaign trail today. Joe Biden in the very important swing state of Pennsylvania, also here in Delaware. He'll be speaking to the nation about 2 kilometers from where I stand. It's an enormous stage that's already been set up, red, white, and blue lights all over. And he will address the nation. We don't know if that will be a congratulatory speech, a successor speech, or a concession speech. Or he may just come out and we still don't know who won. But I asked, when will that speech?
Carolyn Presutti, thank you very much for joining us from Delaware with your perspective.